Hey friends, welcome back. Today I'm installing the CushCore inserts into my mountain bike. I have just the single and I'm doing the rear tire only, not doing the front tire. So like me, you may have been hearing a lot about these CushCore inserts. There's other brands, but this is kind of the one that I'm hearing about the most and the one that a lot of the people that I know are using. Not sure what their market share is or anything like that, but it's pretty much the only brand that I could name off the top of my head, and it's the only one that I ever really see in the stores. So going with the CushCore brand. And when I've kind of asked around, CushCore, the company, whether it's because they want to sell more or whatever, they recommend doing the front and rear tire. And I can definitely see, if you've never used them, to just try it with the front and rear and see what it's like. But everyone that I've talked to only uses it on the rear, and they've tried both front and rear. Most of them have tried both front and rear, and they end up going with just the rear. Basically, the reasoning is that the front tire doesn't take anywhere near the beating that the rear tire does, or the rear wheel does. And unless you're on a trail like top of the world at Whistler, or generally at Whistler, the front wheel is not going to be taking that kind of a beating, and it just saves you a little bit of weight. And yeah, they just like it. That's fine with me. So I'm doing just the rear tire. So one other thing that you may have heard, if you've actually looked into this, is that these are an absolute pain and a beast to install. I've watched a bunch of videos, and I'm going to try it myself and take you along for the ride. So let's get to it. All right, so just got started and got my bike flipped upside down. Don't have a bike rack, and got the rear wheel off and started to unseat my tire. I have 29-inch tires, so I got the 29-inch CushCore, and they're already tubeless. So sometimes you might be converting from a tubed tire to go tubeless with the CushCore and everything. So kind of depends on the setup. This is my first bike that had tubeless tires, and I've never taken a tire off or anything. So one thing that I was already surprised by was just how adhesive everything is and how hard this tire is to get off. So I figured I should actually show that in case you're in a similar position, and maybe I'm going into this a little bit naive. I watched a lot of videos about the installation of the CushCore, not about this part. So I might be doing something dumb, but yeah, we'll do a little time lapse of actually getting this off. All right, tire is completely removed. Now I just have to inspect the wheel, the rim tape, make sure that there's no gaps or holes or anything like that in it. I should not have done it on the dirty ground because there's a lot of dirt on it, but I'll get that off pretty easily. Can inspect the tire, make sure there's no slashes or holes in it or anything like that, and we're good to go. But the big problem is that I realized I'm missing a few parts. So if you buy the single CushCore, it doesn't come with the valve stem, so you would need to get the valve stem. CushCore has valve stems that they use, and there's other valve stems that you could probably buy and fit, but there's definitely, you definitely need to have that, and you actually need to install that before you work on this piece, so it's not something you could add afterwards. If you watch the CushCore installation video, they recommend that you have a large round trash can, like, the giant Rubbermaid trash can, so that you can use that as a working surface. I'm not going to buy that. They recommend that you have a little bottle of water and dish soap. Easy enough, I have one of those. The other thing that I forgot to get, I have the Stan's no tubes sealant, but I don't have the syringe. and the syringe is what you need if you're going to install the CushCore with the valve. You just press the valve off, and then you use the syringe to insert the sealant. I don't have that, so need to get a couple things, and that has stopped my installation, but I at least got this far. So I just ordered them on Amazon. I might run to a local bike shop and see if they're open amid the coronavirus, and see if I can get actually into the store and buy a couple things, and then I'll cancel my Amazon order. But if that doesn't happen, then we'll be back tomorrow to finish this once we get everything. Okay, made it here to the shop. This is in Issaquah in the Klahani neighborhood. So if you live in the area, Progression Cycle is a really, really, really great shop. I've had multiple bikes worked on and a few different projects, and really trust them with their work. They're super good and well priced. You know, they're not cheap, they're not super expensive. They also do demos, so if you are looking for something from Evil or Transition, they have a couple other brands. They do demos, and it's really, really close to the Duthie mountain bike park. So it's like 5 minutes away. So if you're in the area for that, or if you're traveling to the area, you want to hit Duthie, you can demo a bike from here for a day or 3 days. I think they even do a 5-day rental. So it's a little bit pricey, but they'll take it off if you end up buying a bike too. But they have really, really great setups. So definitely check it out if you live in the area or you're coming to visit. Let's go see if I can get in and if I can get what I need. All right, got it. They were open, and they were actually just doing like come up to the door and they'll take care of you outside. Thankfully, it's not raining or anything. They had a covering. They actually said you can go on the website and order ahead and then pick it up, or they'll deliver within a 10-mile radius, which was kind of cool. So got it. Got my CushCore valve stems. Got the syringe, and it has the valve remover. So got everything I need. Gonna cancel my Amazon order real quick before it goes as shipped, and we'll keep this going. And I'll actually be able to ride tomorrow, so that's super exciting. The Amazon order probably wouldn't have come until tomorrow evening sometime, so that's exciting. All right, we're back. It's the same day. Didn't have to wait for the Amazon order. Back with the parts that I needed. So got a bottle of water with dish soap. One of the difference makers that was recommended was a set of steel core tire levers, as opposed to the basic plastic ones that most people are used to. So I did buy these a while back and never opened them. It was for this installation, but they actually in the video just use these basic tire levers that you're probably really used to and you probably already have lying around. You will need something, so if you don't, you at least need these. In the CushCore video, they use these. In other videos, I've seen them use the steel core ones. We'll see what I end up needing. All right, so the rim tape looks good. I just removed a lot of the sealant residue that was on the tape because I couldn't see underneath if it was actually in good shape or not. So it actually came up really, really easy. I just kind of put a little bit of pressure with my thumb on it and it all came off. It looks like the rim tape goes edge to edge and there's no tears or anything, no holes, no gaps like they say to look for, so that's great. Now I just have to figure out how on earth to get the valve stem off. I thought it just popped out, and maybe it does and I'm just afraid of breaking something, but never mind. It just pops out. There's a bunch of sealant around it, as you would hope, and just give it a little bit of effort. I'm always afraid of breaking something. That was easy. Pops off. Got to install the valve stem now. I'm going to give this a little wipe down. So basically now we're just going to put the CushCore on the tire, and there's another part or another kind of tool that they recommend that you use for this that I don't have. What they recommend you use is a hammer with a soft handle so that you can use that as some leverage. I don't have that, but what I do have is a shovel that has a rubber end, and I'm just going to use a rag to give it a little extra cushion. People were right. This kind of sucks. I've been trying to get just the one side of the tire in for a little while now, and every time I try to get some leverage with the tire lever, the tire bead pops out close by. So I definitely can see where the CushCore folks saying to work off of one of the large rubber trash cans would work, because you just get better leverage and you're in a better position than I'm in right now. But just keep going. This is definitely not as easy as the CushCore folks made it out to, as the CushCore folks made it look like. But I've been at this one side for a while, and I think in the Skills with Phil video, what Phil did was he got this line to essentially disappear into the wheel. So what you need to do is just create as much space as possible, which, you know, that's what everyone keeps saying, and that will give more room to the side that you're trying to tighten. So clearly, because in his video he actually shows a close-up of the line disappearing, and in mine it's a nice gap all the way around. So it looks like I'm having about as hard a time as he did, so I probably need to do that same thing for this tire. So I'm going to wet it down some more and then really just try to get that line in, because I'm just failing at getting this last bit done. So okay, that was the trick. I actually got it all the way in there. So just like Phil did, the line disappeared, and that actually took a good bit of effort. So I was really pushing in with the tire lever, like pushing it to the other side, it felt like, and using quite a bit of effort. But then this just popped in, so that was a lot easier. So now I still have to do the other side. Let's see how much faster I can do that. So the one side took, let's just say, a half hour of actually working at it. I'm going to time this one. One thing that I think helps is actually to, like, gather some of the tire rather than just pulling on it, to actually like gather some of the tire and then pull it in. Moment of truth, that was only about 2 minutes, so. So you can already notice that I got it hand tight, but by pushing it in further, I can now go even more just by hand. That's it. About 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes. So if you're trying this and you watched it and you haven't done yours yet, that's probably the biggest thing, to just take the extra time once you get the side on, as much as possible by hand. Go back through with your tire lever and just push that tire in further, kind of get that line to disappear. So you're pushing it further to the center of the tire, and that makes all the difference. So now that that's done, the tire's on, I'm actually gonna inflate it and give it a little bit of air to make sure that it's seated correctly, because I really crammed this tire in there, and then we'll keep going. Okay, so put some air back in it, and now this line has fully reappeared. You'll hear a bit of a pop, so that's why it's important to put some air back into it, just so that you can make sure that the bead of the tire is sitting into the wheel well correctly. So I could hear it pop and I could see it expand, and the line is kind of nice and uniform around both sides. So looks like we're good. So now we're going to add some sealant, and we're almost there. So one thing you could have done is, when you only had one side of the tire set and the other half was open, you could have put the sealant, the tire sealant in then, but I had a feeling that it was going to be really messy if I did that. So, and I think it would have. So, in this way, you can use the syringe and insert it through the valve stem. You just need to take the valve core off. So you have a little tool for that. That CushCore gives you. So this will let all the air out now that I'm taking the core out. So give this a good shake. And one thing I didn't mention, and I actually got really lucky on, is to make sure that you put your tire on the right direction before you start doing all that work. And I put a lot of work in. It would have really sucked to get to this point and realize I put it on the wrong direction. But your tire, depending on your tire, should have some kind of direction indicator on it. And I didn't realize it till I was halfway through. And so my little rotation indicator is here, so it should be good as far as I can tell. But make sure you check that. You have a 50% chance of getting it right if you forget, but it would really suck if you got that wrong. So with the size of my tire, this tire is 2.4, so it says to use 2 to 3 ounces. So I'm going to go probably right to the full 2 ounce. This whole dropper, this whole syringe is 2 ounces, so I'm going to fill it to the 2 ounce line. So shake it up real good. So one thing, if you see these syringes on Amazon, this is the KOM cycling one's pretty popular. And by the way, shout out to Progression Cycle. The price at Progression was the exact same price as it was on Amazon, so that's always awesome. There's two different syringes, so this one needed the thicker one, so you could put these together or just separate them if you have a, depending on the valve stem that you have. So this works perfectly. There's a bunch of reviews saying that they don't fit, but they do. You just only use the one syringe tube. So I'm almost done. Just got to install this core back on. And now I'm good to inflate it. I hope your installation goes even smoother than mine, but ultimately that wasn't too bad for me. I'm gonna put this back on the bike, and tomorrow morning I'll be able to give it its first ride. All right, it's the next day. Made it to Duthie Mountain Bike Park and gonna hit the trails and see if I can notice anything. Probably won't notice the difference too much here at the mountain bike park, but I have the tire pressure at 30 and normally run the rear tire at 32. I'm a pretty big guy, so definitely need a good bit of support in the tire. So have it down just a little bit. We'll see if I like that. A lot of people say different things about when you have the CushCore installed and the tire pressure. Some people can definitely go lower, and you can certainly run, if you were to flat, you could certainly run it flat. Some people need to have the same tire pressure. I guess it all depends on the rider weight, the bike, the setup, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to try it just lower than usual, and we'll see how it goes. Duthie was pretty crowded today, so this was a rather chill ride, but it's still great to get out on the bike. It had just rained, so the loose dirt was all packed down, and the trails were in pretty great condition. Ryan's is actually where I noticed the CushCore insert the most. It has some of the biggest drops and hardest hits for the most part. There's a few bigger jump lines that definitely has more, but of the trails that I hit today, this is where I actually could feel the difference and notice it. it was similar on Voodoo Child with some similar drops and bigger jumps. I could actually feel it, and in some of the corners as well. So I ended up doing a newer trail for me later called Rehab. I'll tell you about that in a sec. So this is Rehab, and this is some really tight corners, which I'm trying to get better at, and I'm really, really horrible at. I didn't think that the CushCore would necessarily make me better at cornering, but I was just curious if it maybe gave me any more confidence or anything like that. I'm still pretty bad at it, but I am definitely getting better, and this was one of my better runs. Since I noticed it the most on Ryan's, I did Ryan's one more time before I headed out, and the trails ended up getting a little crowded, so I did a couple simple laps on some more basic trails and then just headed out for the day. But mission accomplished, and I was able to kind of break it in and get the tire worn in again and get a feel for it all on the trails. I actually measured the tire pressure in my tires before I went out just to double check everything, and when I did that I noticed that the tire pressure in the rear tire had dropped significantly overnight, so it dropped, maybe in half. So had to refill the tires, and then I checked again after this short, less than an hour ride, and I had lost about 1 PSI in the rear. Maybe it was a little bit more than 1, and then about a half a PSI in the front. So I thought that was interesting too. I've actually never done that. I've never measured before and after, so I'm not sure what's typical. But that's just fine with me to only lose one PSI, and there might be some settling into the tire to do. So that was just an interesting note. That's a wrap for this video. Sorry it was a long one, but hopefully you found that helpful. Thanks so much for watching this, and give it a like if you enjoyed it. Hit subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next one.